Okay. Um, I know you're probably at work, Teresa, but if you want to switch your video on, just say yes to the little prompt there. But if your boss is around, then no, you've probably been discreet as usual. Okay, whatever works. All right. So let me get the presentation up, people, and then we'll say a little formal stuff, and then we can relax and get into it. So, okay, share the screen here. All right. So welcome to Ascension, activating your light body to return home. I'm Nicholas David Ngan, and
And I'm Gabriel, Jonah, Hallaire, Ngan.
yeah,
Lovely to meet you all.
yeah, we're at the Center for Conscious Ascension, and we're going to talk about light body integration work. Basically, it's the return home, how you get home to God. Basically, how do you leave the matrix when the time is right? Okay, so this is a little formal bit, then we can just relax into it. Do you have a feeling that everything in the world is rapidly changing, including yourself? Are you ready to understand the deeper meaning behind this ascension process so you can move through the changes with grace and ease? So this is all about finding out about accelerating your ascension process in this free webinar with Gabriel and myself. So, well, let's just say a little bit about ourselves before we find out about you. So, I've been stop the screen sharing. I've been fascinated by ascension from oh very very young age, sort of from the 1990s onwards. Shows you how old I am, and wanting to find out how do we get home to God, how to get home to Source. And I'd always been searching as a kid. There's got to be real meaning to this life because no one's telling me the truth. I could sense that from a very young age. And I was looking at for school and at university and work, and no one could give me an answer. They all seem to be just going through this robotic sort of life, just doing stuff, and it didn't seem true at all. Someone wasn't telling me something. And then in the 90s, I read a book called What is Lightbody by Toshiro Tachiren, who was a walk-in, who came into a body here to bring Ascension technologies to Earth, the light body integration work. And when I read that book, I thought, man, this woman really knows what she's talking about. It really just, she explained what I'm going to talk about today, the game of separation from spirit, from God, how we descend into unconsciousness, how we wake up, and how we get home, which is what Ascension's about. And I thought someone knows what's going on at last, because no one else seems to have got it figured out or was even aware of it. And so I I was really looking for the truth of how this thing worked, because I knew this limited reality we were in was not there wasn't there was must be a lot more to it. And in 1994, I was at a carousel growth workshop with Frank Alper, and one of my friends there had trained with Tashira to do the light body work. And she removed my etheric crystals. And that was like I got woken up. I just woke up. I thought, what have I been doing? I just completely woke up because all this light and consciousness came in, and it was so profound. It was like I had been asleep for 34 years. It was a bit shocking, actually. And so I badgered Tashira for 3 years to say, you've got to teach us this because she'd never taught the light body work in full. And 3 years later, she rang me and she said, we're going to run the course in Oregon. You better turn up because you're the reason. You told everyone else about it and they hassled me. So I'm running it now so you can all shut up. And so you better all turn up. So we did. 30 of us turned up for the only training in light body integration. This beautiful place. It was called Still Meadows or something in Oregon, and we're in the middle of a forest. And we spent 2 weeks learning light body integration work, which was one of the most profound trainings I'd ever been through. She taught us how to remove the programs, beings, and structures that create the illusion that we're small, limited human beings. So that was 97. And that's how I learned the light body work, basically. And then a few months later, she left the body. She walked out of the body, and there was no more light body trainer on Earth. She was gone. She just, and the new soul that walked in, came in, wasn't interested in the same way. So there were 30 of us out there doing this work, but no one training anyone. And then in the early 2000s, Tashira from the ship, from the high dimensional Lotus sword ship, came to me and said, "We want you to continue the work because personality in the body of who was in the body of Tashira wasn't interested." I said, "I don't know how to do this," and then they said to me, "We'll teach you how." And part of me didn't believe that. It was like sitting in an auditorium with the medical corps, the beings who hold this body of fifth dimensional ascension work. Said, "We'll teach you." And I sort of said, "Okay, I'll think about that." They persuaded me in the end because they said, it's vital for the ascension process. This work continues to awaken more light workers. So they did in great detail. They explained to me what to do, which is why we've been training light body surgeons since the early 2000s in this work to continue it under Tashira and Spirit, her guidance in the medical corps. So that's how we got to where we are with the light body integration work. So that's my story. That's how I got here. So Gabriel, do you want to share how you got here?
Sure. So perhaps the family resemblance is clear. I'm Nicolas's son, and I'm 25 years old, and I have been working as a healer full time for a little over 2 years now. And I initially wasn't wasn't drawn to this work. I initially trained as a mathematician, but then towards the end of my degree, I had a kind of realization that it wasn't really for me as much. I felt drawn into the spiritual world, and so thankfully I had the opportunity to, over the years, also train in some different healing modalities, and also the very special modality that is the light body integration. And yeah, I love this work. I find it extremely rewarding to be able to assist people even a little bit along their journeys. And my main purpose is to bring as much consciousness as I can into the personality, and of course into the world, to help people feel better, to help people heal from their suffering, and also to help people feel connected, to the deeper part of them, to the source, whatever you want to call it. And that's what the light body work is all about. So I'm very happy to be with you. And yes, let's begin.
Okay, thanks, Gabriel. So we'd like to find out why you guys have turned up. Okay, where you are, what brought you here, and what you'd like from this webinar, because it's very fluid what we can do here. Because we're going to talk about ascension and light body work, how it works, but it's specific things you're interested in, and we can adjust it for you. It's not a sort of a canned sort of presentation at all. It's very fluid. So who would like to share first, so we get to know you as well? Victoria?
Hi, I'm Victoria. I am a mix of things. I am a mental health therapist. I'm a spiritual life coach. I'm a divinely led channel. And like Gabriel, my sole purpose is very, very much like you. It's to come into my power and make my own signature healing modality, which this is part of. And then, magnetize people and share it basically with the world as healing the human condition, which I see as victim consciousness and suffering. And in my practice, I do a lot of trying to wake people up and become aware of their soul purpose and their authentic soul self, or their authentic self that is usually not on track, because we have so much trauma, especially in America, especially as children. And I've had a very large amount of trauma. And my guides told me that I had to go through all these things to walk a mile in other people's shoes. And, experience it, to heal it, and then to basically teach that just as I received it, in a quicker manner, to globally. And I'm supposed to start a program that runs on its own, that will be able to provide conscious awareness and all these things for others. So thank you.
Okay. Where are you, Victoria?
Oh, I'm sorry. I'm in Indianapolis, Indiana.
Okay. Thank you for sharing. Okay. All right. Who's next? Kristen.
I'll go. Hi, everyone. It's funny when each of you have been speaking, what occurred to me was that I feel like the I am statement is a little challenging for me right now, in maybe the best way, in that I have been on a season of stripping labels away. And in a very good clearing way, right? So I've stepped away from my career, and I don't have a litany of here are the things that I do. What I do understand is that I've been, in doing that, that's cleared up space and time and attention for this amazing adventure. So how I wound up here today, I can't tell you, but my past self left a clue on a map for me. I don't even remember signing up for this. And I'm so delighted that I am here and it popped up. And so I just really love that analogy of there's a treasure map that I'm leaving for myself to gather pieces and become more whole. But as Victoria was saying, I have been on a path of exploration and learning and researching and experiencing a whole host of different modalities with the intention and clear knowing that I am to weave together and create my own offering. So that also leads to this place of not really having one particular label, which can be a little challenging to describe to other people. But what I've found is those who need it or resonate with it, they understand it. So it doesn't really require a label. So I'm thrilled to hear more and experience this modality and this work and your knowledge and souls and spirits and see what comes of it. So I'm coming to you from Rhode Island, and it's where I sit for now, but I'm pretty sure that there's going to be a relocation in my very near future. So just very happy to be with you all.
Thanks, Kristen. Who's next? Dan.
I'll share. Thank you guys for having me. First of all, my name's Daniel. I go by Dan Ioli. I'm in Arizona currently. So we're enjoying the hot weather right now, and it's supposed to get to mid-90s this weekend. So it's heating up really fast. So I
Already. God,
apologize for
that's
all of
quick.
you
That's
that are
quick.
in the, yeah, for all of you that are in the cooler part of the states or the world. Bless you. Stay there because it's already heating up. But you know what? I'm really honored to be here today. I have attended some classes with Nicholas with Divine Healing, and my whole life I've been helping others. And currently I work as a firefighter and I help others physically and as much as I can, capably do. And I've just found a connection through divine healing and other healing processes that I've been attuned to throughout my life and growing up with my family members that there's a whole nother way of helping other people out there. And like Gabriel had mentioned, and Nicholas and all of you have said before, we're here on a higher level of connecting others to the true beings that they are. I was honored and given the opportunity to go through the light activation with Amanda. And after doing so, it has completely connected me to the source of that I was looking for, and that the joy and the fulfillment that comes from it is on a whole nother level. I'm not knowledgeable enough in this field yet to actually explain how the feeling is inside, but it is a true awakening and it feels like a connection to source on a whole nother level. And then the deeper I get into divine healing, the more that I'm finding out that there's so much more that I am capable to do to helping others on a way that I wasn't able to do in the past. So it's a true blessing and an honor to be able to be part of any type of programs or any type of energy healing that's available to create the higher consciousness of everybody and become as much as I possibly can while I have the time to do it. Speaking of time, though, I do have a meeting at 1:30 that I'll have to probably bug out of here about 1:15 or whatever, but I will give you as much time as I possibly can. And I'm looking forward to moving through the light body process, whatever that looks like. So thank you for having me again.
Okay. Thank you for being here, Dan. Anyone else want to share? The chat is active now as well. Teresa, welcome.
Hi, this is my first time to this class, and I'm very excited to learn something new. I took his one of his first classes, so I'm just really excited to learn something from this. And yes, I'm sorry, I'm at work.
Yeah, okay. Thanks for saying hi. So, all right. Anybody else want to say hi? Josiane, if you want to. Otherwise, we'll keep going. Or you can put it in the chat if you want. No? Okay, we'll continue back to the presentation. So let's get into what this is about. Okay, now we know why we're here. Okay. So what is ascension? It's a word used a lot in different ways by different people. So I'm going to share our model, one view of it. It's just our opinion. Well, consider a pretty well worked out opinion, but everyone has their own truth on Earth. There are 8 billion different truths. And our view is that we're playing a game of separation from source. Okay, we've separated ourselves in consciousness from source. All that is God in the spiritual sense, we call it that. And the purpose, you sort of wonder, well, why would you do that? Why would you move away from love and light? Well, the purpose of incarnating on Earth and experiencing this limited reality is to expand God consciousness. Okay, because God spent a lot of time thinking about existence when it first created this universe, because there are multiple universes. And then it realized, okay, I need to go and experience myself rather than thinking about it. And so what it did is that it basically took parts of cells and expanded out and had them get denser and denser to the point that they actually forgot they came from God. All right. And those parts are us. The spark of the divine, the spark of source, our soul is in us. And we forgot who we were when we came to this reality. And then Ascension is about the process of remembering you're a lot more than this limited physical body and this limited, apparently physical world we're in, the matrix. Because ultimately it's just a projection of God's consciousness, even though it seems very real. And more and more people are raising their frequency and embodying higher consciousness to reconnect to where we come from the higher dimensions, which is the ascension process. So what's happening is that today's particularly strong, for example. I mean, I slept 10 hours the previous day and I felt exhausted when I woke up because the ascension energies, the frequencies coming in from the high dimensions, the Schumann resonance, the solar flares, stuff is happening so much. It's beyond physical stuff going on. So it's really accelerating and people are feeling it very palpably nowadays. It's because we're returning home to source. So we get lots of uncomfortable symptoms in our bodies. There's higher light. This is the light coming from your higher self. Okay, from the high dimensions. It's coming in to your body to raise your frequency to eventually turn you to a being of light. How many of you guys have seen the movie Cocoon? Anyone seen that? Okay, you won't want to look it up. It's an 80s classic. Okay, and in that movie, they basically, later on in the movie, they basically peel off the Earth suits and these pure, brilliant beings of light emerge, which is who the aliens really are. And that's actually us. They're trying to teach us something. This was a very advanced movie for the time. So we're beings of light ultimately. We're just pretending to be dense human beings. Okay, but these bodies here, with the right infusion, right ascension encodements, can turn to light entirely. Okay, which is what we're going to do. If you're conscious enough, the purpose of light body work is to open up all the channels so you can do that and remember sitting in this space, because when you normally die, you forget this reality. This is about remembering that Dan was a fireman, Kristen is in Rhode Island doing lots of stuff, Victoria is a multitasker as well, but you'll remember all that as you ascend in consciousness. Your body will turn to light. And the idea, that's called immortality, it's about maintaining memory of who you were and transitioning to the next dimension. Because when you do that, you've just broken out of the cycle of reincarnation. Okay, and then you can move to the next multiple levels of different levels of the high dimensional levels and consciousness and gradually evolve. And the purpose of the light body work is basically to open up all the channels and everything so you can do that very thing. You can ascend consciously. All right. And so, but we get tons of these weird symptoms because the light's affecting our bodies, and we've got all this fear and polarity in us and in the matrix leaving our bodies. And you might have noticed the world's very polarized at the moment. It's completely coming apart, the matrix. It's because the light's coming in. So your beloved President Trump just destroyed the European Union today, for example. He said, either you pay us a lot of money or we're going to pull our forces out in 30 days. So every European country is leaving the EU and doing a deal with them because they don't want to go down the tube economically. And then the Russians moved all their military forces in the Baltic states at the same time. It's all coordinated because basically Europeans realize we have no defense if America goes. So the whole massive control matrix in Europe just evaporated today. It was incredible news what's happened. It's completely evaporated because the frequency of control and all the stuff that goes on in the world is being dissolved by these high frequencies. So it's reflected in the world what's going on. You know?
We have a message from Josiane.
Yes, do you want to read that out, Gabriel?
Yes, it says, hello. Hello, Nicolas. Like you, I've been looking for answers. What brought up the downfall and the disconnect from source? I read the Lightbody book more than a decade ago, and it sparked something within me that you said you can reconnect and retrieve that lost memory. So here I am to find out more. I'm sorry I'm not on video as I'm in bed with laryngitis and I can't speak at the moment, although I would have loved to. So yeah. Thank you Thank you, Josiane. Understand, of course, if you can't speak, it's not practical.
Yeah, we understand. Thank you. And Victoria, this is not meant to be political. I'm just giving an example of rapid change. It's just sort of happening so fast in the world because the frequency is rising. That was the point I was trying to make there. I just read that about
You
an
said
hour.
our president,
Yeah,
and I was just kind of saying that not everybody voted for him. So
I know that. Yeah, I'm not going to get into that, but I know that. But I'm just saying the world is rapidly changing through all sorts of people, in incredible ways. Things which we thought would never happen are happening. So the new civilization is being born, okay, based on unity consciousness rather than this polarity consciousness of good and evil. And there's always some conflict going on in Earth. So we're basically, all the polarities are dissolving, and we're moving back to unity consciousness, because ultimately we're all one great soul. But we just separated it out in this reality to all sorts of different factions and ideas and forces, and to play it out. And the idea is to dissolve all that separation and move back into oneness, because there's only one soul in the room in the universe, ultimately. Okay, it's just getting to know itself. So we are all the same being, just in different. We have different faces. Okay. So basically, we need to focus on getting back into unity, because that's how you dissolve a lot of what's going on here. Okay, and transform it. Okay, so I'll draw a little picture here of that. So
we just have one more message from Josiane, and it says, she says, in view of all that is transpiring, isn't this an invitation to open to that state of oneness?
Oh, well, I'd definitely say it is, Josiane. It's definitely about that. I mean, that's the only way we're going to move through this process is polarity, as the polarity here on Earth dissolves. Focusing on everything being in oneness. And if enough of us do that, that's what happens. Okay. So here's a picture that summarizes what I've just said. So here is source on the 12th dimension. I think it's not working very well today, is it? Hang on. The 12th dimension. We're on the 3rd dimension, this supposed densified reality, and this is we moved from the 12th down to the 3rd dimension. So we were in unity up to about this point, unity consciousness, which is what Josiane's talking about. And then once we got to the 5th dimension, where everything, when you're there, you feel connected to everything, because you are. And then what happened is that we differentiate out into individuation souls here. Then we come down to not in a body at this stage, but when you come into a body here, then you feel really separate from God. And this interference zone here was deliberately put in place by the ascended masters who help create this reality. So we'd have a sense of separation from God. So we wake up, or we don't wake up, we sort of are dozing here on Earth, and we asking a question like, what is the meaning of life? And if you were God, you wouldn't ask that sort of question. But we ask it because we've got this astral barrier and astral beings preventing us opening to higher consciousness. So this is how we begin the journey of life. We seek. Ultimately, when we ask the question, what is the meaning of life? We're trying to go back to here. Deep inside, our soul wants to get home because it knows something has gone badly wrong by being in this reality. It's a very dissonant place. Okay. So that's why we search for meaning as light workers. And even people, the 97% of the population who we call the ground crew, go much more asleep than we do. We come here to wake them up with the Ascension team. Okay. They search for meaning as well. So what Lightbody is doing is it's opening up a channel, more conscious channel, to get back to source gradually in consciousness. It's giving you access to your higher self, access to higher dimensional abilities, and it's removing a lot of the systems and structures and beings which create the sense that you're separate from God. And it had to be this way so we would believe this was real. But then we discover once you start to ascend, none of it's real. It's just an illusion which is rapidly dissolving at the moment. Okay.
But I just like to make one comment, is that the main gift from my perspective of this physical reality is that it feels real. It feels real and it has meaning. And because of that, it's like it's an amazing playground, as it were, because you can't really make any mistakes in a certain sense. From a certain sense you can, but from another sense you can't. And it's like we're mixing perspectives here. There are many different views. So from one view, everybody is different, and you are different from me, and everybody is their own person. And then if you rise up a bit, you see, no, everyone's the same. We're all connected. And then from another view, everything is one. So, it's like this playing, well, I see things as a playground.
Yeah, Gabriel, it's a really good perspective. Because it depends on where you are and your level of consciousness on Earth as well, how you see it and which dimension you're on. So, which order you're connected to. So, the idea here is that we move in consciousness back to source, and we turn our body eventually into a being of light by clearing all the separation programming, and then the light body gets activated. Okay, we move up here. And if enough of us do that, okay, it wakes up everybody else as we rise in frequency and consciousness. Then what happens is this third dimension gets pulled up as well. These are like TV channels, basically. This is a low frequency TV channel. Basically, the third dimension gets rolled up, so it no longer exists, and everyone moves up to here and eventually to here. Some consciously, if you are able to, with the Ascension process, some less consciously. Okay. So this is what we're actually doing. So all the learning that we collectively, all about 8 billion of us down here on Earth, embodied, all the souls, we take it with us. And that's stored in the Akashic records. And that's how God learns, through our individuated experience. We are the creator creating just by getting out of bed in the morning and having breakfast and doing our thing. It's not some entitled old white guy sitting in the sky in a throne or anything like that. We are the creator creating. Okay. Hard to believe some mornings when I get up, but that's what's going on. So, how do you activate your light body? All right. So, it takes a lot of energy to go unconscious, especially when you come from source, and to forget that actually that's where you come from. So this is the structures, etheric structures, devices, and programming your energy fields. All this is put in place so you think this is real. And the light body integration removes these structures and grounds the higher light coming from your higher self. Okay, so it's an awakening. And so this is what the light body looks like here. Okay. These thick lines here are what we call exotonal lines. These are fifth dimensional lines that are on the surface of your body. These are the primary energy flows. The higher light comes in from the higher self down here. There's a Star of David on top of your head, a large and a small one. It comes into this primary energy conduit, and it's distributed through these primary lines on the surface of your body, and then it goes into the body through what we call spin points here, and through the chakras. And it goes, and there's also a secondary external system, but it goes into what we call the axial system, which is a fifth dimensional electrical system that connects to 100 trillion cells. So all the cells are powered by your higher self coming in. Without that, you're basically dead. Okay? You need the life force. And so this is the means where higher frequencies are progressively infused into your body. So eventually when the soul activates the institutional encodements, everything switches to light because the pathways have been prepared, and you can go gradually, and you turn into a being of light. And then you'll find yourself in what we call the bardo, as the Tibetans say, for about 3 Earth days. And then you emerge on the other side into the next dimension, either the fourth or fifth, depending on where you're meant to go. But you would have gone consciously through the process in your light body. Okay, so you'll see a body, but it'll be much lighter energetically than the one you have now. Right. All right. So, Gabriel, do you want to take over here and talk a bit more about the Lightbody integration work? What actually happens?
Yeah. So to be very concrete, the Lightbody integration work is a series of sessions, a series of 6 sessions, occasionally 7, but mostly 6. And in those sessions, we do a series of different processes. And as it says on the slide here, some of the things that we work with during the Lightbody work before we get into the details are removing blocks to the light, so removing blocks of consciousness. So there are several different systems and pieces of the human energetic anatomy, if you like, that it seems to be, as part of the nature of being born a human, there's parts of us that naturally block or try and resist the light. So a large part of the light body work is about removing those blocks so that the consciousness, the light, can naturally enter the body. Another part of the light body is actually about actively infusing higher light into the body, so into some of the pieces of the light body that Nicolas mentioned earlier, these lines of light along the surface of the body. The next part, so the cut new pathways through your brain, creating new ways of thinking and psychic openings. So what that means essentially is freeing up your thinking, because there are a few different blocks that, as part of the light body, we remove, and these specific blocks, they are intended to limit certain types of thinking, and there are some pieces of the light body, some pieces in the light body work that it's like it can create a kind of opening. Not everybody who goes through light body work has psychic openings. So psychic openings is where some kind of psychic ability activates. So this could be clairaudience, where you suddenly start to hear things. Clairvoyance, the most common one, where you have visions, or maybe you see angels, that kind of thing. We have a question. I'll just address the question. So Josiane asks, do we consciously put these blockages to work our way through to remembering that we came from source? And I'll answer yes, and then I'll develop. So as far as I understand it, the different blockages that we work with in the light body, it's like they're part of the deal of being a human, part of the experience of coming to Earth and living a human life, is that the soul agrees to be limited in a few different ways, including with these things that we work with the light body work. So it's not something that's imposed from the outside. It's something that the soul agrees to as part of the experience. And in a certain sense, these blockages are useful because they help this reality down here feel real. They help it feel like, yeah, it's heavy, it's separate, it's dense. In a sense, it's useful. But of course, for somebody who's looking to raise their consciousness, these blocks are not useful because they go in the opposite direction to where they're trying to go. So I hope that answers your question. And the next point in the light body integration work opens your heart chakra multidimensionally to eventually merge with all the other chakras to create your Merkaba. So this is basically talking about opening up the access to love. This is a big piece of work, opening to love. But within the light body work, in particular, we unblock something in the heart chakra to make it easier to connect to the love. And there's a particular meditation that we use as part of the light body work, which you are welcome to practice by yourselves, called the Unified Chakra. And the Merkaba is it's like the result of practicing that meditation for a long time. I'll get to your question in a moment, Victoria. But so the Merkaba is this vehicle of light. It's like the result of becoming extremely conscious, if I can say in just one sentence. It is the Merkaba is what happens to your energy bodies, what happens to your energy fields when your consciousness has risen so much that you are ascended. So Jesus, for example, the different sages, the Buddha, I would say they probably had Merkabas because they were so conscious, so awake. You had something you'd like to say, Victoria?
I just had a question. And part of what I'm doing is I'm supposed to reconnect people in the collective to love.
Mm-hmm.
And then you think about like the different levels of, like loving ourselves, loving
Mm-hmm.
the divine, connecting to the divine, loving us, loving each other. Do you, so when you wrote, connecting to love or said that, do you believe it's all those layers of love, or what's kind of, what do you think? Multi-dimensional person.
So what kind of love are we talking about here? Is that your question?
Yes.
Okay.
You didn't say what kind of love, so I.
Yes. So it's true what you say. There are many kinds of love, many flavors of it. I am of the personal belief that all expressions of love come from the extremely pure divine love and are just different expressions of that same love. The love that we're talking about here is more of that divine quality, more of the impersonal, transpersonal love without limits, love that can include the human love, but it's like of a different quality. It's the love that is possible to feel for everybody on Earth. You don't know everybody on Earth, but it is possible to love everybody on Earth, even the people you don't know. So it's more that kind of love that we're talking about. But all forms of love are beautiful. So whatever you like. And the last sentence: you will connect, embody, integrate, and express your higher consciousness in your personality and your body. So what that basically means is that the Lightbody work is intended to help you raise your consciousness. It's intended to make the connection to source stronger, the connection to the divine, the connection to the deeper part of you. And in that sense, you could describe the Lightbody integration work as awakening work. It's different from healing. So I know, Daniel, for example, you've trained in some divine healing, and Victoria, you're as well. Victoria, I believe you do some healing work as well. So it's different from healing work. Healing is more working with the human, working often with the parts that don't feel so good. The Lightbody work is more about directly increasing the connection to the divine. And they're very complementary. You can't do one without the other. This work would not be so helpful for somebody who is totally in the illusion of this, how can I say, the illusion of the physical world, and who is totally submerged by their fears. This kind of work is very much adapted to people who are looking for that deeper inner connection. That's what this work is for. Yeah, do you have anything you'd like to add, Nicolas, on this slide?
It's a remembrance of who we truly are, and when we do that, we think, well, where have I been? What have I been doing? And it's the familiarity, it's a feeling of home when you do this work. It's more and more like, because it comes in progressively when you do the work. It's like, oh, I'm back to this is the real me. I'm remembering now. How did we get here? Why did I even do this? And it's like it gives people hope because he's a way home. People get drawn to this work because they know it's the way home. The soul gets them there. It's not until they get into it they realize, this is definitely the way home. And it's like, thank God I found it, because it's that unity consciousness takes us out of this polarized, dissonant reality, which we know is not right. It's a splinter in the mind. Neo talks about in the Matrix. Something's very badly wrong with this place. Well, it is. It's very dissonant frequency. It's not. It's inherently unstable. It's not meant to last that long. But it's a very powerful learning ground for us as sparks of the divine. So we get a taste of home here, and then we want more, and so it motivates us and drives us to move forward. I remember when I had the light body work done, it was like, peace at last for the first time. And how was it? I was peace at last after 37 years of emotional torture, I would say, just for the programs I carried. I was starting to get some peace, and it was, I have to have more of this because I can get home. So, anything else you want to add, Gabriel?
No, I think I'm finished for this slide. Thank you.
Okay. Do you want to take everyone through this?
So now what I'm going to do is present in a little bit more detail what are each of the Lightbody sessions. So there are 6 sessions. Occasionally, one of the sessions can take a little bit longer, but I won't get into that. But there are 6 sessions, and you see them here listed. So body consciousness realignment, Nephilim consciousness removal, etheric crystal removal, divinity threshold removal, astral devices, higher light integration, and activations and recalibrations. So what are these sessions? The first 4, from body consciousness realignment to astral devices, are all concerned with removing blocks, specifically removing different blocks within the human energy system, if you like, different blocks to consciousness. And then the last 2, higher light integration and activations and recalibrations, are about explicitly increasing the connection to the divine. And you might say, well, why don't I just do the last 2 then? What do I need the others for? And at least my understanding is that often the removal of blocks is as powerful or more powerful sometimes than the deliberate infusion of light, because it's worth remembering, well, this is my perspective, we are all beings of light. We are all part of the divine. So as such, it's like consciousness, in a sense, wants to rise, especially in somebody who is consciously, looking for that deeper connection. It's almost magnetic at a certain point. So when you remove the blocks to the consciousness, then suddenly there can be like a wave of, there's this realization that comes in. So the sessions are all, they're all lovely from my perspective. But in detail, what are we working with? So the body consciousness realignment, the first session, is working with this thing we call the body consciousness. And the body consciousness is like the natural intelligence or consciousness of the physical body, this flesh and blood thing that we live with. And in most people, this body consciousness, this natural intelligence, it plays a very specific role in blocking the human, and that role is of fighting the light. So fighting the light, okay, what does that mean? It means that the body consciousness resists. It resists the awakening of light. It's the awakening of consciousness, excuse me. It's like what this means is the body at a certain level rejects the light that's coming in, rejects consciousness, rejects the awakening of consciousness. And what this can feel like is you meditate, and when you meditate, you can meditate at a certain level, but there's part of your mind that's always distracted. And then there's another part of you that says, no, I don't actually want to do this. And then there's another part where you get a headache, and it's suddenly a feeling of like, oh, I can't do this anymore, I have to stop meditating. So that is an example of the body consciousness creating resistance. And I will reply to your question in a moment, Victoria. And this resistance can be quite strong. And because we are so connected to our bodies, because the senses, the perception of the senses is so strong, it can be quite intense. Occasionally, not everybody, but occasionally people on the path of growth develop allergies, weird allergies when they're adults and they never had them before, and they only start after they begin the path of growth. And from my perspective, that's because of resistance from the body consciousness. And so that's an example of what it can do. And so this first light body session, body consciousness realignment, is all about changing that job, changing the body consciousness from working against the light, fighting the light, to working with the light. And the end result is a lot more harmony. It's like there's less conflict within the human. So suddenly there is harmony of purpose, working together, rather than, one part going this way and one part going this way. So it's a beautiful session. And so Victoria's question: how many blocks or unconscious negative programs do you think there are, like fear-based beliefs and victim consciousness, etc.? Is there a list of them that I can locate, or is it just understood that there are just many? It's a profound question. I'll give him my attempted response, and then maybe Nicolas can chip in. So each person's a little different. Some people, as far as I can tell, have more or less separation, negative beliefs, fear-based beliefs, victim consciousness, etc. It can vary a lot by person. I don't know if there's a list of them. I mean, you can make a list if you want of all of the different programs and fears that you can think of, but you might identify with some of them now, and some of them yes, some of them no. That's me. That's not me. But a key concept that I work with a lot is the concept of layers. There are layers of separation, and we can only feel or be aware of one layer at a time. It's like we're an onion. So, for example, there might be in one layer there might be a fear of not having enough money, and then you heal that layer, and then the fear goes away. But then 2 years later, you're in another layer, and then suddenly the fear of not having enough money comes back, and that's because it's in another layer. So basically, it's difficult to feel all of your stuff all at once. So stuff might come up and then go away, and then it might recur years later. So a human being is a complicated beast, basically. Would you like to chip in, Nicolas? Or
Yeah, we can talk about that. The negative programs are designed by the soul in the form of your soul contract. The sound of your name creates specific known karmic experiences. There's 22 different major experiences you can have in a body. Okay. And that's designed specifically so they're optimal for your growth. So you get the hard karmic stuff, which is your greatest learning to overcome and transmute, like disempowerment, victim consciousness, like you've mentioned here. Okay, so the soul does design it. So there's a set menu you can choose from when you come here. All right. How it plays out and how you work through it is that's the I don't know if you call it magic, but that's actually the puzzle of life. How do you work your way through it? Which is why we have all these challenges. And there are lists of a lot of the programs. It's in the soul contract work, but it's also in the divine healing work, which we offer, which comes from Source, where all the potential programs you have, or pretty much most of them, have been documented. And it's a structured process for peeling the onion, the ego onion Gabriel just mentioned. So your soul contract creates it all. You've got your divine healing to dismantle it all, and to raise your frequency. Okay, so there's two components to it. So it is relatively well known. It's the question of how you uniquely work your way through it. Okay, Gabriel, do you want to get on to the second point?
Yes, of course. So, the Nephilim consciousness removal, session 2. So this session is working with this thing called the Nephilim consciousness. And the way this works is that with each human soul that comes into a human body, there tends to be, as far as I know, it's in everybody, a second consciousness that also enters the body with the human consciousness. So we have the human consciousness and then the Nephilim consciousness, both sharing the physical body. And the Nephilim consciousness, it's not like taking up half of the space. It's relatively small, maybe 5% of the space is taken up by the Nephilim consciousness. But what it does is it's a bit like the dark voice of the ego. So it basically helps to express some of the karmic experiences that the soul would like to live through. So you can use the tool of Soul Contractor to understand those really well. So the Nephilim consciousness, it's like it helps to push on your wounds. It can skew your perceptions. So it has a tendency to make things look more negative, darker, make it much easier to focus on the bad and harder to notice the good. It also tends to create quite a buzzy, active mind. You take it, so this means that the mind can be with the Nephilim soul. Often the mind can be very sometimes unstructured, but also there are lots of thoughts, and the mind never ceases. Even in the depths of meditation, there's something that always says, ooh, there's a buzzing, there's a tension. And the work of this session, Nephilim consciousness removal, is to break the connection between the human soul and the Nephilim soul, and then finally, Nephilim consciousness, same thing, and then remove the Nephilim consciousness so that the human consciousness can inhabit all of the body, and there is no longer this piece that is always pushing towards the darkness, towards the bad, towards the negative. The mind can quieten a bit. And just to be clear, this is not the cause of all human suffering. The ego, the human ego, does play its role, but Nephilim consciousness, if you can say, it accompanies the ego. It helps to make the reality feel heavy, basically. My personal experience, the Nephilim consciousness, it feels heavy when you've got it. And there's a subtle but really quite profound shift in perception when the Nephilim consciousness is removed. Shall we go to the next one? So the next session, session 3, etheric crystal removal and divinity threshold removal. So here, this session works with removing some specific limiting energy structures. The etheric crystals and the divinity thresholds. So these are energy structures that are like attached to the human being. They're not physical, you can't touch them. They exist in perhaps the astral, sometimes a little higher, so they exist in the non-physical plane. And they serve two main roles. The etheric crystals, they live mostly in the torso up to the head, and they serve to limit the way you think, so create slightly more thinking limitations, and block psychic access. So they basically are designed to deaden or deafen the different psychic abilities, which in different people have tendencies to activate. So these crystals are designed to keep that less or limit it. So we remove the etheric crystals during this session. And then the second set of structures, the divinity thresholds, these are energy structures that sit, energetically speaking, mostly in the lower body, especially around the pelvis. And these structures are designed to keep a person ungrounded, and especially keep a person from bringing their consciousness into the lower body. So a lot of people, their awareness is mostly up here, and the lower body is not, it's like it's there, but the connection is not as strong. It's like suddenly there's a part of you can't feel your feet so well, and this is because of the thresholds. So we remove the thresholds, and apart from maintaining ungroundedness, there's also some work about limiting the creative energy, especially the sexual energy, and the also let me check my notes, make sure I'm telling you exactly the right thing. They also limit, well, they try and limit or prevent this thing called the original divine blueprint, the Adam Kadmon, from embodying through the human. So the original divine blueprint, it's like a vision or a template of the highest potential of a human being. And as consciousness rises, energy from this template, from this vision, which sits somewhere in the higher dimensions, comes down into the human. So the divinity thresholds, they try to stop that from happening. So in this session, I'll ask the questions in a moment. In this session, we remove both of these sets of energy structures, and generally it's a big help in terms of thinking clearly, feeling the psychic connections, and feeling in the lower body. Nicolas, would you like to answer the one, why is it called the Nephilim consciousness?
Okay, so the Nephilim were a race of beings who created the matrix here. Okay, and so as part of the matrix, part of the game, the rules of engagement, you need to have one of these in you in this specific game of separation. It's different on other planets to play it properly. And the point of the Nephilim consciousness in your body is to keep you away from God as long as possible. Basically, the contract between the Nephilim and the soul, which the soul says, keep me asleep as long as possible to see if I can overcome you and wake up. Okay, so you hear about the Nephilim in the Bible. These are beings who literally created the matrix and this whole experience. Okay, along with other different races. Do you want to answer the next question, Gabriel?
Yes. So Kristen asks, are these installed during childhood or something that we come in with? Presumably you're asking about the etheric crystals and divinity thresholds. Yes. Okay. As far as I'm aware, they come in somewhere before birth, and from the moment of a person's birth, these structures exist. So as far as I know, they come in immediately. One aspect that I didn't mention is that some of these structures are more active. Well, how much the structures are active depends on the person. So, for example, with the etheric crystals, they're designed to limit psychic abilities. So if somebody is not at all interested in developing their psychic abilities or is not at all connected to the spiritual world, these crystals don't have very much work to do because the person is already focused on the earthly life. So the structures are there, but they're not so active. Whereas in a person who is actively trying to develop some kind of psychic abilities or actively trying to raise their consciousness, the structures have a lot more work to do. But as far as I know, they're there from the moment you're born.
I think they come in earlier.
Oh, do they?
Yeah, they come in earlier. It also depends on how much the soul wants to experience the connection to God while in the womb. So my sense is they come in during that womb time. Okay. It may vary. So and by the time you pop out into this world, it's designed to keep you asleep.
Part of the reason why I ask is, having access to psychic abilities as a child and then, them getting sort of squashed over time. So that's what I was wondering. That's why I was asking this question.
Okay, you just say that again, just so I'm going to listen to that again, what you exactly said then, Kristen, about the child's being squashed. So I grasped that.
Oh, it was the experience of having very distinct psychic abilities as a child, as a young person, and then during whatever happens in childhood, those going offline.
Yeah. Your parents are there to put you to sleep and to rearrange around your soul contract and do all the lovely stuff they did to see if you can overcome it. And they didn't know you chose them for that reason. And if you're lucky, you get a bit of love as well. But the training ground for light workers, the spaceship dropped you off, or the stork dropped you off at a certain house, and that was your lot. It was the way it was designed.
Okay, got it. Thank you.
To see if you can wake up, and that's a big question mark. Can you wake up out of that? Okay. So the suppression of the abilities is in the soul contract. It's like you have fires, but see, can you recover them? Can you clear your trauma to get all those sensitive things back? And that's the journey, because when we have to recover something, we value it much more than if it was just given to us. We take it for granted. That's why all this weird stuff happens down here. So, Josiane, she's asked a question there. How does this apply to someone who remembers they notice that later in life certain talents get blocked? It depends on the karmic environment you're in, Josiane. Depends on, because it's very tough down here, as you all know. Depends what happens. Depends how much beaten up you get energetically or psychically or emotionally or even physically with the matrix. That can shut certain things down, because when we get traumatized, we numb out, and so we may switch things off. We sort of go into a sort of survival mode, pull up in a ball just to stay alive. Sounds familiar to some of you, but that's why some things get shut down, because also we can get fragmented with trauma. So the sensitive parts of us literally break off and go somewhere else because they can't handle it. And so it's called soul fragmentation. So we have to, as we heal, we have to bring them back, call them back. Then those abilities start to come back. So when you say someone's ungrounded or out of it, literally parts of them have just gone somewhere else. Okay, but literally they aren't all there. So, okay. Gabriel, back to you.
Okay, so the next session, astral devices. So what is this session? This session works with some specific limiting energy structures, which we call devices, and they sit in the astral plane mostly, and they are connected to different places in the body. So for example, a very common device looks a bit like a choker or a kind of collar around somebody's throat. And this session is about identifying the devices that a person has and removing them. And these devices, everybody has different ones, which is why it doesn't have a nice, highly defined name. And the devices, they have a couple of key themes. They are sometimes about limiting certain abilities or creating certain specific blocks. For example, it could be a block to expression, it could be a block to sexuality, it could be a block to love. So specific limitations in certain ways. And there are also some devices which can be about exerting some kind of influence on a person or control or external thing. That doesn't happen to everybody, but occasionally there are people who have devices where there's some kind of external something which is influencing them in some way. So this session is all about identifying which devices a person has. Everybody has different ones, and then taking them off. Yep, I think that's quite. I think that's everything I wanted to say on that. Session 5, higher light integration. So this is the session where we switch from taking stuff out to putting stuff in, as it were. And the higher light integration involves working with a person's light body, working with the specific energetic structures. So you remember the lines of energy that Nicolas showed earlier along somebody's body. And yes, perfect. So you can leave that one up. So during the highlight integration, what we do is we rebuild or upgrade these lines of light which are part of the light body. And these lines of light, these axiotonals, are often dormant, or they might be partially activated or not fully activated. And the way you can think about them is it's a bit like they're riverbeds. So there is a channel, there's a pathway, and there can be water or no water. It can be a drought, or there can be a stream, or there can be a flood. And what we're doing in the higher light integration is increasing the amount of water and making sure the water flows properly. So it's a beautiful session that involves basically increasing a person's capacity to hold high consciousness energy. That's the purpose of the session. And the way that it's done is through infusion of high frequency energy into the energy system, mostly through the head, but going down into the whole body through these axiotonal lines, through these lines along the surface of the body. Not only, but a lot through these lines. And yeah, it basically increases the connectedness of a person, increases the consciousness. Are those the meridian lines? No, they are analogous, but they're slightly different. Would you like to speak more to that, tNicolas?
Yeah, some of the meridians follow it, but this is the higher dimensional system, which feeds into the meridian system. Okay, it's not entirely one for one match.
Okay, so that's the higher integration, and the reason it's called higher light integration is we are filling these passageways with higher light and integrating that higher light, the higher conscious energy, into the body. That's why it's called that. And then the last session, session 6, activations and recalibrations, is a very eclectic session. And it's all about activating different energy structures that are part of the light body. And these dormant energy structures, and most people they're dormant, some people less so than others, these dormant energy structures are about connecting to source, connecting to spirit. So for example, everybody has a specific energy structure that sits about here. It's not the third eye, but it sits near the third eye. And this energy structure is designed to translate the information or the gifts that come in from psychic abilities, that kind of thing, into something that's human understandable. So this is the structure through which intuition works in many cases, for example. And there's another piece in this session which involves working with a big, what we call a column of light, which is a really big cylinder-shaped structure which runs from the top of the head all the way through the body. And this is like an energy highway. And what we do in this session is basically make sure the highway is working, infuse light into it, etc. So this is a really lovely session, all about increasing connection to the source, basically making it easier to hear source and feel source and recognize consciousness. That's the purpose of it. So those are the 6 sessions of the light body work.
You want to talk about how people feel after that?
So it depends on the person. Typically, people feel, having gone through this work, in my experience, people feel more clarity. It's like there's something that's flowing more easily on the inside. The mind is a little quieter. The consciousness is more settled. There's less friction. So this is what, especially with the Nephilim removal, it's easier to just sit and be quiet and be happy, which is an amazing gift. There can also be a kind of deeper feeling of connection. I've heard that quite a lot about. It's like suddenly the feeling of who you are can expand a little bit. So I'm no longer this human body. I have a human body, but the sense of who I am has expanded, and now I can feel more this like the deeper self, the part of you that is immortal, the part of you that never dies. So basically, people tend to feel less limited, less stuck, less thinking, less trapped by the emotions, and more connected to the spirit. Yeah, I'd say that's my brief description. Do you have anything you'd like to add, Nicolas?
It's a magical process. It's a coming home, especially when you're much more plugged into your higher consciousness and your different psychic abilities like clairvoyance, clairaudience, clairsentience. All the channels are open for those, and they switch on an as-needed basis. Doesn't mean they're all going to be there straight away, but the potential is there. If you need to know things, you'll find you're more plugged in, and it's like you're can align much more with your higher self and your soul, and life starts to flow more. You start to flow what we call the spiritual signature, where you're following spirit much more. When you start to do that, life changes because most of the time, before you have this sort of work, is that you're following the path of the ego, which is the path of suffering, as the Buddha says, because the mind there's only a 50-50 chance your mind will get it right, which is not good odds, as you know. So if you follow spirit, you get it right the majority of the time. It means things will flow better. You'll be in the right place at the right time, and life will start to unfold in a completely different way. So, and then as a result of all this, you've opened up all the pathways. So when it comes to the time to ascend, your higher self just infuses the ascension codes, it activates your Merkaba, your light body, and then you start to move consciously into the next dimension. Okay. It seems to be taking a very long time to get it done here. It's different every time. This is the third ascension happening on this planet. But the main thing is you've opened up your potential for that to happen, to consciously move to the next dimension. And remember what it's like to be in Rhode Island or Illinois or wherever you are. So that'll be quite a thing. You can be sitting in the higher dimension thinking, I remember having this conversation, because you have all your memories, you see. So, and that's the whole point of it, to stay conscious through the whole time. So we hope that helps. And life will just flow, and life becomes more magical with this process. Things just flow and open compared to the static we normally put up with. So
we have another couple of questions.
Okay, go for it.
How does higher light integration compare and contrast to being infused with Reiki energy? Start with that one.
Okay. Reiki is a particular set of energy symbols that are infused. And so, which is completely different to what we're talking about here. The higher light is fifth dimensional Christ consciousness unity energy from the higher self. It's a different language altogether. So they're completely different. Okay. So, I mean, Reiki is the frequency of this reality, whereas the higher light's coming from the fifth dimension or higher. That's what it's coming from.
I just didn't know how it felt in the body. Like, I'm trying to understand how it would feel in the body.
Oh, I can answer that one.
That's my only reference with, I was doing Reiki before I knew the symbols when I was a kid. So, which comes from my heart center. And so I was just trying to get the feel for how it feels in your body.
I've had a couple of clients describe, one client in particular, after that session, mentioning that it felt a little bit like Reiki. Yes, because the main similarity is that it's energy coming from the outside into the body. So often this session is very blissful, People tend to, you're lying down for this work. People tend to kind of start to float away, and they might occasionally people have visions, that kind of thing. Depends on the person, but some people have, some people fall asleep almost, or they go into a very altered space, and so in that sense, there's some similarities to the way it feels to Reiki. But as Nicolas says, the frequency that we're working with is slightly different.
Another question here. In the front, forward activations, has they ever hurt? I had some pain when I opened my third eye several years ago. No, the activations don't hurt. I think you just may have had some blockages in the third eye to opening up, Victoria, or beings in there trying to stop you from waking up. Because a lot of beings are in your system to stop all the systems from activating. Okay, so you probably were heading up against some of those. So, and it could just be programs to keep you asleep that were triggering. And they don't let go easily, see, because it's all designed to keep you asleep to see if you can overcome them. All right. Any other questions, anybody? Hope or Josiane, I hope you can switch your microphone on if you want to ask anything. Troy, do some people activate in their light body early on with just divine interventions? What do you mean by divine
like
intervention?
Guides and Archangel Michael and sometimes I wonder if some of this I know you said you're accelerating the process, and I was just curious if these things could also happen earlier, more like divinely naturally, because you're being led to them.
And this is just one pathway to ascend. There may be other ways that it can be activated. I've come across other people who are doing similar types of work because it comes down in different ways on Earth. So at least someone gets something eventually to get back to God. There's hundreds of ways to ascend. It may do, but I would say this is conscious ascension, which is why we said to the conscious ascension. This is a conscious way of awakening. So, which is not, it's sort of, I guess you call it an extended divine intervention because your soul got you to a session. Okay. So I guess you could call it divine intervention because this technology, spiritual technology, comes from outside the rules of the matrix. It's not subjected to what you're doing is you're bypassing your karmic process by waking up here. Because everything that can, and there's no karma on that because you made a conscious choice to wake up. Everything that can be learnt in this game of separation has been learnt. And so when enough souls said to the karmic, well, we need a way to wake up and get out of the matrix and get home to God, they provided this technology, which comes from outside the matrix. It wasn't here prior to 1993 at all. Okay, so it's what we call divine dispensation. And if you are drawn to it, it means you're ready to go home. You're ready to wake up or come online with much more of your real abilities. Okay. And yes, this can be done remotely on Zoom. Okay. Most sessions are done remotely on Zoom by most of the practitioners now. Some do it in person and Zoom. But yeah. So working on someone energetically with these structures is just the same on Zoom as if it's in person, because there's no time and space. It's just a perceptual thing. So you could be on Pluto and someone could work on you on Earth and it will happen instantaneously. Because just remember, there's only one soul here. Okay.
But you do have to be present. You can't be asleep for them.
Yes, you have to be awake and present with it. Yeah, because the body won't believe it unless it's actually felt crystals come out or thresholds removed or astral devices removed or nephilim removed. Then it believes it, then it lets go and it moves to the next level of its evolution. Do you want to talk about how long your sessions are, Gabriel?
Yeah. So
See, we've had the question here.
So the sessions they take about 2 to 2.5 hours. Some of them about 2.5 hours, some of them a little shorter. And the way that somebody can go through this, as an example, is one session every 2 or 3 weeks. I hesitate to give an exact number because it's up to the person. Uh, the most important thing is to give enough time for the work to integrate each time. So you can't do all of this in 1 week. You can't do Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday, Friday, Saturday, one a day. It's way too much. So yeah, so you can and you can do as many as you'd like. We do the sessions in order, one after the other, and you can take a pause. You can do them over 6 months. You can do them over a year. Yeah, so you can do also one every 2 weeks. That's kind of the intense version. And yeah, I'm available. And there are also many other Lightbody practitioners available if you're interested in experiencing this work.
Yeah, you can find out more about the detail of the sessions at lightbodyintegrationwork.com. And Gabriel's listed on there, and it goes into a lot more detail what each one is. Victoria.
Just have a question about the level of, I don't know, I call it psychic energy that would be like, I imagine this is kind of souping up your light bodies. And I know over the years I've had some problems with my psychic energy interfering with electronic type of things. And I don't even know what that phenomenon, I can't say that word. I don't know what that's called. And I was wondering if, there are any practices that after we go through this acceleration and, become our higher selves that to like control that, or if it causes any problems with that kind of thing.
Yeah, you have an electrical circuit in your body which needs to be, in your case, replaced. And electrical circuits come loose, and that's what's messing with your electronics. So it's part of the highlight integration. That gets replaced. An updated version it puts in, and then it should sort that out. That's why that's happening.
It can happen. It can happen where along the path where it's like your energy system. Often the energies are it's like they're expanding outwards, and that can affect things, especially electronic things around you. So that's quite common. I've seen that in many people, Victoria. You're not alone. And typically when it does happen, it happens in phases where sometimes it happens and then it goes away. And then maybe a few years later it comes back and then it goes away again.
I had it as a late teenager. I had some really, my psychic abilities were really active in a different way when I was a teenager. And I remember, if I'd get upset and I'd go to raise my voice, my friend's car's radio would just stop. But now when I'm using my computer a lot of times, I'm having problems that I have to move back from my computer. Like I get really excited in session, helping a client with certain things. And it's like my guides maybe are right by me. I don't know. And it's all it starts to short out my connection. And I just don't want that to worsen, especially if, going through this process.
Yeah, it just needs if you work on your light body, it should balance you out, and after the basic light body integration work, the light body undergoes a lot of attrition down here, so it needs to be sometimes rebuilt. You have dissensions, more of you comes in, more cell components come in. So then you undergo what's called a dissension integration, which is basically a highlight integration, rebuilding the light body to integrate the new parts coming in, fixing any circuits which have got out of sync, which happens just from the attrition in the matrix. So that's like like you just have a car service once a year. It's the same idea. You've got to have a light body service if needed. So yeah, that sort of sorts that sort of stuff out. Because we're very dynamic energetically, and the matrix is very changeable, so it has quite a strong effect on us. I mean, today, for example, energy is very, very strong for most people. So, okay. Any other questions, anybody? Put it in the chat or say it out loud. Switch your mics on.
What was that lady that you named in the beginning that you learned this from, that, later walked out and somebody came in?
Tashira Tachi-Ren with the What is Lightbody book. Okay, that sort of is a very humorous but serious way of explaining what's going on here. Okay. Hope says, thank you both. Very interesting and much needed these days. Thanks for the info. Thanks for coming, Hope.
I have a question. Is this something that you mentioned, sort of yearly maintenance on your automobile? Is this something that you go through these sessions and then maybe a couple of years later you need a refresh, or
yeah, what happens
be
is
like
that,
repeat clients?
yeah, if you have a Ascension, a strong one, you'll literally feel like the top of your head's been burnt out, and you can't think straight because your mental body got disconnected from your ninth chakra. All your lines of light, your external lines are burning. Literally, it feels like it's been carbonized. It looks like that clairvoyantly as well, and it hurts. And you can't think straight, and it's like nothing's working properly, and everything's off. And then the most important symptom is you can't think straight because the mental body's detached. And so when you get it all rebuilt, then it's like, oh, I'm back. I can think now, and I feel aligned, and I don't have painful crown chakra because I got it replaced, and I got all my lines of light that got blown, which they do. They look like carbonite, black carbon. And then when it gets all rebuilt, you feel, oh, I'm back. You see. So yeah, that's how you tell. But often, if you're completely out of it, you can't think straight to even think that you actually had a dissension happening. But after a while, you figure it out, what's actually going on.
Yes, and subjectively, these dissensions, this incoming light, often through the top of the head, they feel very strange. I've had a couple myself, and you feel very altered typically for a few seconds or a few minutes or a few hours. So if one happens to you, you know something's happened. You might not know what it is, but you'll feel something.
Victoria, you have another question.
My question is about the Lightbody map, the map of our body, because I was going to look more into that, and I'm wondering if, like, everybody believes there's the same map, or if, multiple people sometimes have kind of different visions of, what certain things look like. So
It's
there anybody like...
It's the latter. Lightbody is a very broad term used out there in the spiritual community, but we're talking about what we showed you there, the actual energetic fifth-dimensional energy body, which we were rebuilding with the work. Okay. And different people see things in different ways. As I said, there's hundreds of ways to ascend, or thousands of them. And this is just one of them. We think it's a pretty good one, but it's just one of them. Okay. All right. So it's challenging trying to reconcile the different systems. It's not possible actually a lot of the time. So we just say, if you're drawn to this, you're drawn to this. Just draw. Your soul will get you to whatever spiritual awakening technology you're meant to work with. And you're all here for a reason, because your soul says, have a look at this. And some things will just don't resonate with you, so you go elsewhere. It's just what your path is.
It was really funny. Throughout, you guys have been saying things that I say to my clients, or like I tell people that we middle age, we're like onions, and we have to kind of unwrap all the dysfunction and the distortion and like the maladaptive protections that we've put on ourselves to, finally get to our original full self. So that was a phrase I used all the time. And there were several other things. It's like we, like I secretly worked there and had all the lingo, but so but I have issues with being able to have gobs of money to be able to pay for things. And it was always presented to me. I do have the polarity of, what is it? Wealth versus poverty type of polarity. And all the things that I've gone through like that, I've always been told it's so I can walk a mile in the shoes of the people I'm supposed to help. Like they're a lower demographic, lower funds, and so a lot of times my guides will send me a $700 program, and I'll have to say, hey, what cheap book can you find me, or things like that. But yeah, I love being here, and I thank you so much for all your free trainings that you do have available. So thank you so much for that, or I wouldn't be able to participate at all.
Yeah. Well, thanks for coming, Victoria.
Thank you, Victoria. Thank you.
Any other final questions, guys, before we close? Crystal, are you about to ask us something?
Oh, no, I'm all set. Thank you so much. This was really enriching.
Okay. All right. If there's no more questions, we'll call it a day. And thank you for everyone for coming and contributing, asking great questions. Total engagement. We'll probably have the video out to you in a few days. We've got to process it. And thanks, Josiane. Josiane says thank you, Nicolas and Gabriel, very instructive. So we'll get it out to you. We'll have links for the different things we talked about. And you can always email us as well if you've got any further questions about the work. All right. So thank you for coming.
Thank you, everybody. It's been lovely.
All right. So you guys, if you just leave the meeting, because we're gonna hang out here for a bit.